Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Orion, and this is part 2 on how not to die alone. This is based on the research by Logan Ury. I did part 1 last week. You can check that out. I'll link that up below somewhere. I highly recommend checking out that first part. And the first part is the theoretical. The second part is the practical. We're gonna talk about how to give your online dating profile a makeover. We're gonna talk about how to actually keep love once you find it. And then we're gonna talk about the unfortunate events that transpire when you need to break off love, how to go through a divorce or through a breakup in a more manageable way, maybe a way that is different than you might think. Super powerful stuff. This completely changed my dating game. Okay, so the first piece to this that I think is super interesting is that what you want isn't actually what you need. What you want? Anyways, The Weeknd sang about this in one of his first songs on House of Balloons, right? He's what you want, I'm what you need. The author of this book, Logan Ury, swiped left on her now husband because we have this idea in our mind of like this perfect partner that we put in a box, and it's very different than the actual person that we may end up with. And the problem with online dating, it's based off of looks. And so we often lose out on the whole picture of what somebody is. And that's really what we come to love about somebody. Logan says this: what's most powerful is the things that we can't measure on the apps. We have that long checklist, has to be 6'3", has blue eyes, he's a CEO. That's not actually what you build a relationship off of. She says, we have this long checklist, but those are likely not the qualities possessed by the person we fall in love with. Our eventual partner may be completely different from what we expected. Find reasons to say yes. That's a bar, Ury. I love that. So first of all, let's level up your dating life. So the first one is design better dates. Do something creative. Go for a walk. Do an art class. Check this out. I didn't know about this until she recommended this, and I did this on a date the other night, and it actually really worked. I normally sit across from the person, just like this. You and I were talking, but it feels a little bit like an interview. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to school? What do you like to do? Blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to move out of that and have it feel less like an interview and ask, first of all, more intriguing questions. If you could be any kitchen appliance, what would it be and why? So to me, I think just better questions in general. But second, what she recommended, I thought this was really interesting, was sitting next to the person. And there's something about being next to somebody that feels intimate in a way that you don't have to just look into their eyes the whole time. You can kind of be doing something. This most recent date I went on, and we got dinner and we sat next to each other. And it was actually really nice to be able to share the food and kind of talk and sit next to each other. And it felt much more intimate. Like I was actually able to touch her leg and she would touch me and my arm. It was just because you're right there. It just felt like I could put my arm kind of around her chair and we could talk. It's hard to make out with somebody from across the table. You know what I mean? Taking a walk with somebody, you're side by side. How can you shift the focus from yourself back onto them? The other person says, oh man, I love the Arctic monkeys. You go, rather than going, oh wow, me too. That's what we want to do. But when you think about asking better questions, you say, wow, I love them too. What was your favorite album? It's like shift it back onto the other person. This is easy, right? This is, people want to talk about themselves. People don't remember what you told them. They remember how you made them feel. Stop talking about yourself so much. Toss it back to them. Don't make it feel like an interview. This one, I think, is one of the things that Logan's the most known for, and it's fuck the spark. The spark can grow. It doesn't need to be instant chemistry off the rip. Sometimes that spark we feel isn't necessarily that the person is a good match for us. What the spark signifies is that we recognize something there, familiar. And that could be even past trauma. That could be something passed down from an alcoholic parent, but there's something exciting about it. We're like, ooh, it's something our trauma recognizes their trauma. That's not necessarily a good thing, but you still might feel that anxiety or those nerves that might feel like a spark, and it might actually be confusing. Fuck the spark, because some people are great at manufacturing the spark. When you know how to read people and you know about emotions and emotional behavior, it gives you this ability to kind of manipulate people in a little bit of a way. And that sounds bad, but it's the truth. And I think that oftentimes people that are very charming, that are inherently also possibly good looking, that are gregarious, outgoing, also tend to fall into this narcissist category. If you think about a lot of actors, musicians, artists, like myself, like, you can't not have an ego and try to be a rock star for most of your life, right? So for me, I think learning how to kind of turn on the charm when I needed to has been a learned skill. And so I can do that, but it doesn't always mean that we have chemistry. It might just be me seeking validation because I want you to like me. And this gets me into trouble sometimes because I try to be the man that I think you want me to be rather than me just being my true authentic self. If the guy's just telling you about all of his accomplishments, all these things that he's done, like, yes, he might be very impressive, he might be super hot, he might have a lot of money, but is that something you really want to try to build a relationship off of? Maybe. Pick your poison, it's up to you, but that's all I'm saying. Another piece that I'm going to talk to you about in terms of dating is more second dates. We take one little piece of somebody, so they might say something stupid or silly, and we attribute that to their entire personality. That's a stupid person. That's a silly person. We don't do that with good friends. We don't do that with family because we have more layers, more pieces that we can judge people off of ourselves. If they have bad jokes, we assume they have poor taste. If they don't like something, we assume we're not compatible. These are all ways that we thin slice people. Give people a chance. Try to go on more second and third dates than simply first dates. There's this one girl I took on a date and her favorite movie was Ice Age 2. And I was like, how is it the second? It's not even the first one? Ice Age? But she turned out to be pretty cool. We weren't a match in the end. The point being is I remember how much I judged her for that, but we still were able to go on and have a great time, at least for a few more dates. And so recognizing that in my own self, I thin slice people. I'm really hard on people from little actions that I wouldn't be so hard on if they were friends that I knew better. A lot of times too, what Logan talks about is that we have pet peeves that we think are deal breakers, like they chew with their mouth open, they don't breathe through their nose when they're sleeping, things like that are actually permissible, but we feel like they're deal breakers when they really aren't. Once we first start to know somebody, we have the gaps in our head that we fill with our own conjecture, not actually truth based on anything. And so the more dates we can go on, the better we can actually fill those gaps with real data rather than just stuff that we're making up in our head about the person. I told you I was gonna help you with your online dating profile. I'm a man of my word, I'm gonna deliver on this promise. First of all, black and white photos had a higher percentage of people actually liking them and swiping on them than color, so add a little black and white. For men, women liked it when they were smiling but not with teeth. Women also said that they despised, what they did not enjoy was men in pictures holding up fish. So guys, what are we doing here? Take the fish off of the damn profile. I don't understand. For women, Logan said, is portray an actual version of yourself that's real. She said a lot of times we have this idea of who we want to be in our head, in our mind that we create. And so we try to portray a different person than we actually are. If you're goofy, be goofy. If you're serious, be serious. Don't try to be something you're not. Portray what you actually are and you'll attract the people that are supposed to be attracted to you. She said your vibe attracts your tribe. And I couldn't agree more. Be yourself. So let's say you actually have found love and now you want to get serious. Here are some crazy takeaways that I thought were just nuts. Having the conversations of what you are. You got to have that conversation at some point, and it's important to define that relationship, DTR, she says, so that nobody gets hurt. This for me is difficult. Don't ghost people. Have the hard conversations. That's what it means to be an adult. Man up, woman up. Have the hard talks. What Logan says as well that I thought was really interesting is be thoughtful about the big stuff. Kids, do you want them, yes or no? What maybe things like what type of religion do you want to raise your kids in? Things about money, things about where you want to live. These are big things that I feel like are often not discussed. So people end up just kind of sliding into having kids or sliding into marriage, or my relationships always start to deteriorate once I move in with the person. Because there are all these little pieces of like cleaning up the shoes and who does the dishes, little things that aren't actually involved with the relationship that end up influencing how I feel about the person and the relationship. I'm gonna actually pose the question to you and then I'm gonna tell you what you think. Do you think living together before getting married matters? If so, does living together before marriage result in less rates of divorce or more? TikTok people, pause the video. More. Why? This is crazy because when we end up living together, your life ends up intrinsically becoming connected to the other person. You get a dog together, you get a cat together, your friends end up becoming their friends. It becomes this whole ecosystem where your lives become kind of intertangled. You rent. So if the relationship ends up not working out, if the relationship ends up having holes, rather than saying, you know what, this really isn't working, I'm gonna dip out, because of the sunk cost of the dog, cat, friends, etc., we just kind of continue. We continue a relationship that isn't serving us into often a marriage that might not serve us down the road because our lives are so already kind of interconnected. So what she says is, check this out. Before living with somebody, be clear, is this somebody that you're willing to marry? Because as soon as you move in, that is almost the deciding factor that your lives will then start to coexist. And it's really difficult to leave that when you've already been living together, you've built this life together, compared to living separately, dating for a while, for a couple years, and seeing how it goes. She also says that time matters. Dating for less than a year, your divorce rates are much higher than those that have lived together or dated and been together for 3 years or more. So spend some real time with this person, see if they can actually be a potential partner, see what it's like when the going gets tough, see how you grow together. Spend some real time to see if you feel like you're growing in the right direction, growing in the same direction. If you aren't, those might be telling reasons not to continue a relationship. And this can be difficult, but I'm surprised how many people don't have the conversations around kids, money, religion before jumping into relationships and also before jumping into marriage. I know a lot of guys that had kids because the wife wanted kids and it wasn't something that they necessarily did. And I think that that's unfortunate for the little people in that relationship. What Logan says is make a breakup plan, because we all have these periods of peak motivation. You'll feel something, you'll say, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm doing it now. You tell your friends, and then 2 months later, you're like, hey, how'd it go? You're like, I still haven't done it. And it's because we have these kind of periods that wax and wane. So in one of these periods of peak motivation, make a plan and stick to it. When you actually have the breakup conversation, be general. Don't tell the person they smell bad, that they look weird, that it was how they chewed. Like, that just messes you up. And that's something that plays over and over in people's mind for ages. So keep it general, keep it about the relationship. It's not you, it's me type of shit. Be honest, but don't turn the knife and inflict more pain if you don't have to. Another thing she said, don't have breakup sex and give them space to move on. Don't just go right into being friends, especially if you're the one doing the breaking up. Give them space, give them time to mourn, process that, get over you before, if you want to try to maybe be friends in the future. This is what I talked about before, spending at least 3 years with the person, because we're terrible at estimating how much we will continue to change over the next few years. And right now we feel like this is the most developed version of ourselves, but think about yourself 10 years ago. How much have you changed in the last 10 years? Think about, is this something that you feel like you're growing together, like you're growing in alignment, or are you growing farther apart? And so before committing to marriage, I think that's a really important thing to take into consideration. It's not the strongest of the species which survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Is this somebody who you feel like you can adapt and grow and change with, that has a growth mindset? Is this somebody who really got your back, is gonna be loyal, is gonna be a good life partner, has the real key things dialed in, knows how to fight well, has some emotional agility? Think about those things before committing to this person for the long term. When it comes to dating, don't be perfect, jump in, get out there. When it comes to actually committing to somebody though, slow your roll, pump the brakes a little bit, figure things out, have hard conversations, and see if this is somebody that you actually want to spend potentially the rest of your life with. What Logan does is she has a check-in every week. So once a week, her and her partner say, how was your last week? How did you feel supported by me? How can I support you better in the coming week? I think having these little check-ins helps, seeing where you're growing together, seeing maybe where you're growing apart. And y'all, that's the best that I can do for you. We figured out how to get a partner, how to keep a partner, and if you have to break it up, how to leave a partner. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, check out this book by Logan Ury. Cannot recommend it enough. Logan, thank you for the research. You're the bomb. Like, subscribe, smash all the buttons. I'll check you on the next one. Peace.